All right, so I started recording. So if you look in the syllabus, so what we covered this week is operation security. Next week, we cover analyzing data for security. However, we can knock out operation security and analyzing data for security in this week. It's I think it's pretty easy. It's something we're able to accomplish. So we could do that. And this will give us a little bit more time in terms of networking attacks. And then the final project, OSINT project, is going to take a while. You're going to be divided up in teams, and it's going to take a while to complete. And so I think that is the big thing, because what we'll do in the month of November, pretty much, we'll just work on an OSINT project. We may start in a little bit earlier. Probably we'll cover analyzing data for security. Our programming language, we'll just dabble in a bit. And then we'll start on the group projects, at least signing your groups, thinking about what you're going to do, start baselining, and that will allow you pretty much the month of November to tackle the task. The task does take a lot, and I don't want you guys starting behind the Powerball and trying to rush everything when it's final time. So I will work that, and then that will allow you adequate time to knock it out. And then I'll give you a study guide for the final exam. I don't expect the final exam to be, I guess you say, too difficult per se, but it will be a lot of stuff that will be covered in the book and stuff like that. Just keywords, terminology, a few scenario questions, but that's about it. And it'll be an exam that you can do pretty much anywhere you want to. And it'll be randomized questions. So it won't be, I guess, we'll say a big deal. It won't be too problematic in getting everything set up and ready. All right. So in terms of just general security news, what did you guys hear about in the last week? Was there anything significant that you heard about that you would like to share? All right. So the biggest item that's going on now, one of the biggest items that's going on now in the world is what? Someone tell me, what is one of the biggest items in the news currently at the moment? And I'm gonna reshare something, and I want to show you guys this. Oh, sorry, I see someone in the chat right now. Someone in the chat says Israel versus Hamas. All right, Sai. So what have you heard about any information as it relates to cybersecurity regarding this particular issue? Is there anything regarding cybersecurity that touches this particular issue?
You could talk the various propaganda efforts that have been made on both sides of this conflict and how protecting citizens from propaganda is an ethical concern of cybersecurity.
Okay, what propaganda exactly?
I know at the beginning there was a comment that from news reporters that 40 Israeli babies were murdered, and it was kind of a reskin of what happened with what was it, Iraq and Kuwait when, or was it Iraq or Iran? I'm not too sure, but when they
Iraq.
claimed when they were claiming that Iraqi soldiers invaded a Kuwaiti hospital and threw babies from incubators onto the floor.
Okay. So, Joseph, that's good you mentioned that, because right now a lot of disinformation is coming out, right? And so this was something posted on Al Jazeera, and it's an analysis that looks at why is so much anti-Palestinian disinformation coming from India. I'm going to share this link because I would like for you guys to take a look at this. And it's information. It's interesting to see where this information is coming from and who's putting this information out. And so here it says in the caption, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi rise has led to a surge in online disinformation spread by far-right accounts in the country. Now they're bringing that skill set to the Israeli-Gaza war. And then it was interesting, there's a cliche that says, the cliche goes that the first casualty of war is truth. What this means is when there's a conflict, the truth is one of the things that always goes by the wayside, right? They always say that the victor gets to tell the story how they want to. And so here, just saying that, yeah, during the war, the first casualty is truth, then is actual people. And so one of the items is the fake stories you mentioned of Hamas kidnapping a Jewish baby and beheading a young boy on the back of a truck. And blue check accounts have pushed false reports into the stratosphere of virality. One extreme popular tweet shared by thousands of people even claimed the Hamas was a US-led PSYOP. And PSYOP is psychological operations. So take about 5 minutes, read the link I sent you, and then we're going to talk about it a bit before we jump into today's lecture. 5 minutes. I have 3:23, 3:28, come back and ready to discuss this. All right, you got 1 minute left. All right, so let's start back up. So after reading through this particular article, what are your thoughts? Please share your thoughts.
I'm reminded of an infamous quote.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
It's said that Mark Twain once said, "A lie travels halfway around the world while the truth is tying its shoelaces."
Repeat that again. That was good.
A lie travels halfway around the world while the truth is tying its shoelaces.
Ah, that is beautifully.
It's also kind of ironic because although it's attributed to Mark Twain, it's likely he never actually said it, thus proving itself.
You can see how this is damaging. This is all these lies, these half truths or half baked truths, they become damaging because what they do is they place fear into people, right? So now, like, even if when you read through here, especially in a community like India, India has a number of different ethnic groups, right? And religious groups. But we all know there's issues between India and Pakistan. Pakistan is mainly Muslim, India is mainly Hindu, even though they have a significant Muslim minority. However, this just continues hatred between two countries with so much actually, I guess, so much similarity other than religion, right? There's so much similarity between India, Pakistan, East Pakistan or Bangladesh, so much similarities, but here it's just pushing further divides, right? And go ahead, Naeem.
Yes, I was going to mention specifically the article talks about how there's this kind of perfect storm of conditions. Not only do you have, this war that other political entities can take advantage of to spread this information. You have a platform that is turning a blind eye to curbing it and to monitoring it effectively, as well as just an ongoing mission. It's kind of like the stars align in a certain way that they found a special set of conditions that allows them to be successful in pushing their narrative in just the right way.
What's interesting, if you're familiar with proxy wars, that is when like two countries don't go against each other directly, right? They go indirectly. They use other countries to fight their battles and stuff like that. So this becomes a place where a proxy war happens, right? Where it's born. So you think about the connections that Palestine has versus Israel has, and what items will actually play out, right? Do these two countries, nations actually fight themselves, and who will back who? That becomes even a bigger issue. There was talk of how Palestine was receiving, I guess, equipment from a nation that the U.S. is not really okay with. And it talked about how Russia was really no longer supporting Israel, but also Palestine and stuff like that. And so it's sad, but it's the people who end up in many countries who end up becoming the victims of proxy wars and things of that particular nature. And then you can see how disinformation creates so many issues because people will take what they see as, I guess you could say, the gospel, right? Use the word the gospel. They'll take it as the gospel, like it's written, like it's been proven, and that anybody can buy a check mark for a couple of bucks. And so when they see these accounts with check marks and all these verified accounts, it must be real. They'll take that and they'll run with it. There's actually, so quick item, which country in the world is known for having an entire, I guess, classified organization that does disinformation? Does anybody know?
Would that be North Korea?
What was the first one?
North Korea?
No. I mean, you're not far off. You're close. You're in a general area.
China?
Oh, you're very close. This country borders China. What countries border China?
I guess India, right?
No, it's Russia. Naeem was right. It's Russia. I'm going to set out some links and we're going to work on this world geography. But so Russia, they have something they call active measures. And so active measures is all about disinformation. And the way that they did it was that they would take half-baked truths, half-truths, and they would use that to create disinformation. They do that all around the world. And so I will share a video that can be watched after class. You can talk about it more on Thursday and over the weekend, but I'm going to send you a video. You need to watch it. It is amazing. It talks about active measures, and it talks about a number of issues regarding disinformation and stuff like that. All right, I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to share the presentation. All right, so what we're covering is operation security. And so this particular domain is used to identify critical information in the execution of selected measures that eliminate or reduce adversary exploitation of critical information. It includes the definition of the controls over hardware, software, media, and the operators with the access privileges to any of those resources. So again, this particular domain, the objectives are to reduce the operational vulnerability and threats to confidentiality, integrity, and availability, protect the organization's computing resources and information assets, and to balance ease of use and system controls. Remember, that was one of the things I mentioned with security problems is because you can have security controls that protect you, but individuals need to be able to use it, right? You can't add all these controls where the actual person that needs to use the system can't use it. It will make no sense. Their job is too difficult for them to use. It's not going to happen. And that becomes a huge issue because like, well, we built the system, it's super secure, but it can't be used. So it's worthless. Value of data and business mission needs, compliance with laws, regulations, and organizational policies. Again, you have these practices, need to know. People should only get access to items that they need to know. Least privilege, you provide the least privilege possible to do the job. Separation of duties. So duties aren't combined with an individual. They don't have more duties than they need. Separate the duties. And Michael, I hear you talking. Did you want to say something, or are you talking in the background?
Sorry, I was talking in the background. I left my mic on.
No big deal. All right, job rotation. This is basically to reduce the risk of collusion and to ensure there's no single point of failure. And then mandatory vacation. This allows auditor to review records. More importantly, it allows auditor to review records safely. For example, if I'm working, right? I'm working, I'm like, yeah, Mo, you're doing your job, you're working, whatever. And all of a sudden, it comes to my desk, they're auditing everything they're going through my desk, seeing what I have, checking things, making sure I didn't take anything. And I'm right there, I'm going to be upset. Like, wait, you guys accused me of doing something malicious? So rather than have to confront that angry employee that I would be, or disgruntled at that particular moment, or I would feel maybe I feel like they don't trust me, I'd probably apply for another job right then and there. You know what, Mo, go on vacation. I enjoy my week, 2 weeks in Cancun or Tulum or wherever, and they do everything they need to do, right? I have no clue what they're doing. I obviously know what they're doing, but I don't care. I'm enjoying my vacation. I come back. We just keep operating, right? Mandatory vacation is good. Management administrative controls, policies, standards, processes, procedures, and guidelines. Operation and physical controls, gun gates and guards. When we cover physical security, guns, gates, and guards. Operation security says execution of policies, standards, processes, education, awareness. Technical controls, access controls, identification, authentication, authorization, confidentiality, integrity, availability, and non-repudiation. Right. And so the examples they give is help desk, SOC, CERT, security engineer, either EA or enterprise architect. There's different types of controls. So directive controls, these are intended to advise employees of the behavior expected of them during their interfaces with or systems, organization, information systems. Right. It intends to advise employees of the behavior expected. You use this system. This is what you should do. The system should be used only for X. You should not be going to various hubs on this particular browser, right? I'm advising what you should do, right? The intended behavior. Preventive controls. These controls are they included. It says the controls are physical, administrative, and technical measures intended to preclude actions violating policy or increasing risk to resources. Right. So I'm preventing stuff. Right. So these are controls that are in place, maybe to block me from going to certain sites, rather than saying, hey, you shouldn't be typing anything with Hub in it. We're just going to block anything with Hub and the firewalls and stuff like that. Everything just blocked. Right. So there's a preventive control where things are blocked. Right. That's an example. Deterrent controls involve the use of warning or consequences to security violations. So this would be someone going to a Hub site, and before coming up and saying, hey, going to this site, if this site has been blocked, so my preventive control, and if you need to get to this site, do know that this site falls under this particular regulation, this company policy, and you will need to talk to X, Y, and Z in the event you feel like it needs to be removed. Right now I have that particular item. The technical controls involve the use of practices, processes, and tools that identify and possibly react to security violations. Corrective controls are designed to react to detection of an incident in order to reduce or eliminate the opportunity for the unwanted event to reoccur. And then recovery controls, once the incident occurs that results in a compromise of integrity and availability, the implementation of recovery controls is necessary to restore the system or operation to a normal operating state. You have due care and due diligence. So here it says policies and implemented actions that an organization has taken to minimize its tangible and intangible assets. So here it says installation of a antivirus system, all right? So due care is saying, all right, I know there's going to be viruses. I need to install an antivirus system. That's just due care. Due diligence is making sure that that AV is up to date, right? It's not good enough to say, all right, I have the antivirus, I'm done. No, you got to show due diligence. So you need to update that AV software, update with new signatures, or even perhaps, any add-ons or replacing it because it may not be effective. All right, so yeah, here it talks about an information is a organizational asset, information classification, identify information assets, identify IT assets that store, process, and transmit data, determine a protection level. Protection level, or PL, can also be sort of tied to the certification level, but protection level will deal with the classification of it, low, medium, high, unclassed, secret, top secret, right? Define security objectives. Here it mentions the FIPS 199, so understanding what the security objectives that you need. And then here it just says protection of information assets in a system that consists of people, management, operational controls, processes, management, operational controls, and then technology, technical controls. And here, just saying level of protection is determined by the sensitivity of the information assets: commercial, public, private, sensitive, confidential, proprietary, military, civil, unclassed, secret, top secret. All right. And then it says organizations with understanding relationships between policy, instruction, and guidelines. And so here it shows that you have laws, regulations flowing to organizational policies, the functional implementation policies, and from there it further divides up the standards, processes, procedure, and guidelines. And so that's all it's showing that people need to understand sort of the relation of how it flows from a higher level, executive order from the president, White House, all the way down. That's all it's showing there. Here is saying that it says most, if not all, storage media, including paper documents, are mobile except, and then it says protection includes the marking and labeling of media, the handling of media, that's transport, integrity of the media, and then access. Marking and labeling media is important. That's actually, say if you have a hard drive, right? That hard drive has high level information on it. The hard drive on the outside needs to be labeled high. Then the information in the hard drive itself, the actual data, needs to be marked accordingly. And then in terms of transport, storage, who actually keeps logs of it, all right, how that is a system for checking in, checking out, that needs to be done at the appropriate level as well. So the data classification will dictate a lot, and a lot means even how you can walk outside holding the data. For those that end up working for the government, you will find out that walking with different types of data, like if you're walking from out one building to the next, you have to mention like your direct path. Like I'm walking from point A to point B. It should take me 10, maybe 20 minutes. You're going to put it, maybe it's going to be wrapped up maybe in a bag. Maybe the bag, it has a double lock. You'll have that. And then let's go to the next one. So here it just says similar to storage media operation also deals with the protection of IT assets, computing network, and mobile platforms. And here it just says what the protection includes. So asset inventory management is important. You have to understand what you have, right? You can't say I'm going to protect the system and you have no clue what you have. When I worked on a particular program with USAID, and I was in a East African country, they were responsible. Basically, the person who was in charge, the tech person, right? Basically, the director of IT, he didn't know all of his assets that he needed to protect. His hardware software listing was extremely outdated. And what did it mean? He had no ability, he didn't have the ability to track what was going on. You have to understand exactly what hardware and software you have. Okay, you need to understand all your assets. Then talks about configuration management, know how they're configured. So how are they configured? What's actually on these systems? That is important as well. Understanding what if you understand how the configuration management is set up, then you'll be able to understand the actual vulnerabilities. All right. So for this project, you are going to be dealing with, you're going to use configuration management. You're going to be dealing with configuration management. You're going to use an application to configure what you have, and you will be doing that for your particular project. So there's a number of systems that will do that. You check in, check out media, figuring out like, okay, I've done this particular update for my OSINT project, OSINT code. You know, how's it being checked in, checked out a repository and stuff like that. So you will have your own plan for configuration management. All right, so threats. So here it talks about there's a number of threats, but it says insider and business partners are a great concern. A lot of these threats really haven't changed. That's the unfortunate part. But here it talks about insider threats are an issue. Why do you think employees are an issue, are a threat? Why would employees be a threat?
They have access to the company or internal information.
Okay, Daniela. But can't you just trust these employees that you've hired?
I mean, if you run a bunch of background checks and you have them sign a lot of documentation like NDAs, saying if like, hey, if you release this like without any permission or just release this information flat out, legal consequences will be taken.
Okay. Now, how does a disgruntled employee, what are things that make employees disgruntled?
Low
If they were
pay.
fi-
Oh,
Low
Michael,
pay.
that was quick. Michael, you said low pay.
Yep.
So what would you do if you, like, give me an example of low pay making someone disgruntled?
Well, let's assume like I don't know like any of the averages for jobs, but basically like if you're paying significantly lower, that's one of the things that can make them disgruntled. But I think it's not really just a factor that makes someone disgruntled. It's usually like a number of things, and then one thing just sets them off.
Okay. Go ahead, Naeem.
I was gonna say, with the low pay example, a good example could be if, say, for example, a subordinate noticed, they're getting paid less than maybe their superior. However, they feel as though they're doing a lot of the leg work of the position. That could possibly lead to a disgruntled employee situation where they just feel as though the organization is wronging them, or not paying them their fair share.
I got one better for you. So years ago, back on the East Coast, when I was at this particular organization, we had a fellow coworker, right? This coworker was known to sleep at work. He was known to come in late. He was known to leave early, and he was known not to give any, I guess, F's at work, right? We all knew this. It was apparent, right? And the way he came dressed to work, the way he did his work. But when we found out his salary, and mind you, his salary wasn't higher than our salary, right? But just to know he got paid as much as he did for what he did, people were ready to leave. People were like, no, I need more money. I need a lot more money. He should not be making that close to me, and he's not doing anything. That alone made people disgruntled. People were really upset. So you can imagine you're working hard, you're working on the weekends, you're traveling out of state. Some people have to travel over to the Middle East to load platforms and stuff to be filled it. Not this guy. This guy he didn't even do the bare minimum. He was still getting paid really good. So that right there made people disgruntled. People were saying all types of stuff that they were willing to do. There were a number of people not actually that were on purpose sabotaging things, right? They're like, okay, I'm not doing X, Y, Z no more. I'm not worried about code checkout. Like, who cares? Like, if this guy can get paid this and I have to do all this stuff to make a little bit more than him, yeah, it's not worth it. I'm not doing all these things anymore. So it started to create an atmosphere of hate for the company and the management. It created this atmosphere, like immediately finding out that this particular individual was getting nearly what they were getting for not even doing a forward to what they were doing. That is a wild example and is a true example. Someone writes, not getting recognized for the work you have done. That becomes the issue as well too. A lot of times when people become managers, you have an MBA, right? So MBA teaches you like some general stuff in terms of management, how you should, do your financial stuff. Yeah, you manage, financial sheets, marketing. Just it prepares people who don't have a business background how they should function. The problem is when you're actually managing employees, there is so much more stuff that you have to think about, right? People actually have problems at home that they bring to work. A lot of the time, you are spending more time with them than their actual family, right? So you deal with a lot of different personalities. If that person was in the military, they have PTSD. They're just, in engineering, you have some people that have these personalities that don't mesh well at all with anybody. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts. I mean, it's a mesh of all these personalities to get a particular mission done. And then when you're working in the government space and people have to be cleared, you don't really have the choice of who you could choose in terms of working with you, right? So managing that is important because overall, employees can become your greatest issue when it relates to security. And then here just says that operations are getting better at addressing insider threats. Again, one of the things that has grown, not grown as much, is human-computer interaction. And that becomes, organizations need to get better, right? There's so many different facets of security, human-computer interaction, understanding really, well, human interaction is a big issue in terms of security. It still needs to be addressed because we're focusing on so many technical items, machine learning, AI, IDS development, stuff like that, but we need to focus more on the human aspect. Now, this slide here says, most data breaches are from hacking and malware. And then when we talk about application security, you have a lot of issues that relates to the application layer, right? Most of the vulnerabilities are found where? Application layer. So that's what this slide right here just addressed. Here it just says APT is very real. That's advanced persistent threat. Malware is now a tool for hackers. They're stealing data. There are ways to check against this and to work against this. And one of the ways is to look for integrity in applications, right? Integrity, understanding your supply chain. These are ways to begin to fight against this particular threat. There's different types of threats. So you have loss of information, assets, or computing equipment, which is theft. You have corruption or unauthorized modification, unauthorized changes to the file permissions, data, or system configuration. Then unauthorized disclosure. This is unauthorized disclosure of information, right? So release of information to unauthorized subjects. So when we talk about access controls and how individuals can access information and whatnot, an individual who does not have the appropriate, I guess you could say, clearance or need to know for information, having information disclosed, that is unauthorized disclosure. Unauthorized destruction, obliteration of information assets, deletion of files, modification of logs, and destruction of computing equipment, and then service interruption, denial of service. Personnel with privileged access may accidentally or intentionally disable or disconnect computing networking equipment. This slide here is talking about various countermeasures, and these are controls. So we will use the NIST 853 controls. Again, there's controls for everything, but if you understand the 853, you will be able to work with a number of different subsets of controls. So here it just shows management, operation, technical. You can see the class, and that's the class, management, operation, technical. You have the family, risk, planning, system, service and acquisition. There's identifiers for them, so you can be able to identify the actual controls. And then personnel security, contingency planning, maintenance, and so forth. This is the ISO 27001. So these are the IT security controls. And so you can see here, control categories and subcategories of controls, right? So if you look at information, security incident management, and you look at the subcontrols, reporting information security events and weaknesses, management of information security incidents and improvements. And so you see subcontrols of the higher level control. These are just different DoD directives. This is the DoD directive, DoD 5200-1, roles and responsibilities of operational organizations. DoD 5200, rules for implementation, operation security within the DoD. There's a DoD directive for computer network defense. Funny enough, my first certification was actually computer network defense or certificate of training in cyber. And then you go all the way down the 5200.2, DoD personnel security defines the personnel security program. There are lots of different directives. Here it's talking about different controls for personnel security. Directive controls, so it shows policy and procedures, position categorization, so defining functions. Preventive controls, personnel screening, these are background investigations, adjudications, user authorization and user agreements, non-disclosure agreements, proprietary information exchange agreements, rules of behavior, personnel transfer procedure to review roles and responsibilities, personnel termination, this is an exit interview. And then when you go to the technical controls, these are periodic reinvestigations. So for those that will end up getting a security clearance, just because you have the clearance doesn't mean that you will never be investigated again. You will undergo a new investigation. Furthermore, you may not even know when that investigation comes, right? So you may not even know when that investigation comes. And some organizations that require like a polygraph, yeah, your polygraph could be like 2 years, another one the next year, you won't have any clue, right? So the periodic reinvestigation continues to make sure that you're still a viable employee. At least what you said is a-okay, right? So when they do a clearance, they're checking your references, seeing where you lived, foreign contacts, and all the good stuff. But there's no telling what has happened over the year or 2 years or 3 years. Things change drastically, so they'll do another check. So this has to be an ongoing check because of the type of data that you're dealing with. Corrective controls, these are personnel sanctions. All right, so here just showing controls for configuration management. So directive controls are showing configuration management policy and procedures, defining policy, change control procedures. So change control would be, say you have a particular application, right? You're doing an OSINT application and you need to put something in place to make changes. And you have a procedure for that. Preventive controls, so it says baseline configuration. So baseline is the configuration before any change. Baseline is kind of your best configuration that you're putting out there. And then from there, you'll make changes. Test, change in a test environment, access restrictions for change. And then detective, verification and validation of change, monitor configuration changes, and recovery. Basically, you would go back to your baseline configuration. It's like, all right, something happened. We are going to revert back to the baseline or the best known configuration that's there. In contingency planning, policy and procedures, preventive controls, it shows, it says address roles and responsibilities to define the chain of command reporting structure, align objectives with the business continuity planning using the business impact assessment, a contingency training, cross-functional training on various roles, job rotation, perform information backups. And there's numbers of information backups you can have, full, partial, incremental. So full, you just do a full backup. Partial, you're just doing it parts. Incremental, you're doing piece by piece. Here's talking more about contingency planning, direct controls, walkthroughs, checklist, simulation, or full interruption test. Again, the issue with this particular with contingency planning it costs a lot of money. If you're doing a full interruption test, that means that you are actually stopping all work to do a test on that particular control. Walkthrough, it's probably other than checklists, it's one of the least expensive ways to do contingency planning. Corrective controls, perform a contingency planning update to ensure that alignment with the business objectives configuration change. And then recovery controls, perform a trusted recovery, retrieve backups from storage sites, primary, alternate processing sites, and then restore or enable telecommunication services. All right, so looking at backups, here's showing the recovery steps, full plus differential backup. So you look at the full, so you see on Sunday, and then you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, going through the week, that it's just filling up, right? It's just filling up. But if you look here at the lower one, recovery steps, full plus sequence incremental backup, you can see that it's equal blocks of data that's being put together until it reaches the full block. You can see on Sunday it's full, and it's just increments, same increments broken down in 6, right? It's broken down by 6 days equally. And then that 7th day, you have your whole full backup. There's the electronic vaulting, don't need that, but this is what we do need. All right, so I'm going to go here. Here you go. All right, so we're going to go to incident response, the life cycle. And so here it talks about what is the actual life cycle for incident response. So preparation, detection, containment, eradication, recovery, follow-up. So preparation, concept of operation, your ConOps, service functions and definitions, processes and procedures, organization and detail, technology and communication infrastructure. That's for preparation. For detection systems, monitoring systems, reporting systems. So detection, detect events, monitor events, and then, look at all the incidents. Containment has a strategy. It has the logistics containment, the processes and procedures. It's basic coordinated response. Eradication, understanding the problem, looking for mitigations, and then communicating the change and cleanup. Recovery, coordinate and perform recovery process, technology, data, business. There should be a business continuity plan or disaster recovery plan. And here just saying, see that particular domain, conduct audits and security tests, and then you'll return to normal operations. Now, when it talks about business continuity and disaster recovery planning, there's different sites that you can have set up. You can have a mobile site, you can have a cold site, you can have a hot site, warm site. All these sites cost money to an organization, right? When you're thinking about security, remember that there's a guy who's in charge of the finance for the organization, and you're looking at it security in terms of, okay, well, what is this going to cost me to do X? And so that's what they'll be thinking. And so you'll have to think about a way to have a BCP and DRP plan that works with the budget. One of the things, if you need something that's a hot, right, it means that you're doing backups and everything right then and there. So if something happens, you can restore immediately, is share this with an organization that is not in your particular field. Like, you're not worried about competing with this organization. That may be something to do to share the cost. So find ways to share costs. Here it talks about form follows function, organization structure of an effective computer. Security incident response team should always follow mission needs. And then it just says you need the functions, activities, and tasks. So triage, tier 1, that's your help desk. 2 is investigation, containment. 3, analysis, eradication. Recovery, engineering, countermeasure, testing, and then follow-up, planning, and prevention. So we're just showing how it should be tiered. Then you need awareness and training. There's an actual site that I'll share when you actually start working a project that has awareness and training. It's it's Information Assurance Support Environment which from DISA, and they have a lot of training that you can do, and pretty much for free. I will share a link here so you can see the training. Let me find the training for you. We're seeing the site right now. And here's the site. You'll be able to find a lot of training here. Again, don't be scared to go in here and just don't do anything stupid. But you can go in here and see the training stuff. It's pretty good. Back in the day, you could actually order the training. So back in the day, they would have CDs. I don't think I even have the CDs. Maybe I do at the office, but you could order CDs that had all the training on it, and they would say, "All right, you're going to learn about Unix administration." They would send you the actual training for that, and it didn't cost anything. All right, this is 850. So it just says it defines three components of IT information security training program. Security awareness trainings are designed to communicate management goals and expectations, review the rule of behavior for securing information assets. Then you have role-based security trainings to provide specific jobs skills for specific job function and security education to provide personnel with knowledge specialized in information security. The interesting part is you guys, for the most part, are getting, if you're doing a bachelor's of information technology, a bachelor's of ITM, that whole degree is recognized by the NSA and as a cyber program, even though it doesn't have cyber in it, but is recognized by a cyber program. You should be getting a certificate that says you have fulfilled the requirements for the federal government cybersecurity, right? So there's degrees. You can get degrees in cybersecurity, bachelor all the way to PhD. You can get certifications. You can do some type of on-the-job training. You can do an apprenticeship. There are numerous different paths that you can focus training on. In my dissertation, I actually talked just about this. And I'm actually going to pull it up so I can actually show you how it looks. I'll send ProQuest. So now I'll kind of explain what is here. Let me see if I can just download it and I can show you. Because I broke down this particular slide a bit further. So I'm just waiting for the dissertation to load, and then I will share that. So let me stop that share because it's pretty much done. Just waiting for the document to load. It's about 530 pages. It's moving slow, so forgive me. All right, so let me share screen. All right, awesome. Okay. So this is the document I was referring to, the large amount of pages. Just real quick. All right. So this kind of, looking at what we just did for this particular domain. So you can see here, it's very similar to this mission framework, policy, technology, education, kind of create I guess you could say a triad of things underneath this framework. And within here, I talk about education a whole lot more. So I'm just going to scroll down. Here we go. All right. So this is what I was talking about, right? That slide was very high level, but if you look here, it shows education. So in terms of cybersecurity education, you have K through 12, university, professional certs, executive training, education, and then you have different training bodies for all of these. Right. So when you talk about training and stuff like that for cybersecurity, there are tons of options available. And this just shows just how many, right? There's a lot of them available. You can see that K through 12 is tied to university. It also can relate directly here. You can see the professional certs. Like there's some certs that tie to university, but not as many, right? Same thing with executive training. But in terms of independent training bodies, it covers all of them directly. So you can see that is a lot. So when you're at an organization trying to decide like what is actually needed, the prerequisite and stuff like that, important to understand that there are a lot of items available, right? And you have to be able to communicate exactly what is needed for the employees. Because sometimes maybe if an employee has a master in cybersecurity, do they really need to do like basic use of computer security? It's kind of a waste, right? It really is a waste of their time and a waste of company resources. But if they have a background that has nothing included with cyber, then they should do something. So it's something that you would have to think about. All right, I'm going to pause that share. I'm going to grab something. All right. So does anybody have any questions thus far? Any questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this link with you. And actually you can watch this after we're pretty much done. But I want you guys to watch this. I'm going to post it in the course as well. And I think this is important to watch, and then we'll talk about it on Thursday. It's approximately, it's 47 minutes. Watch this item. I'm going to put it on the discussion board, not discussion board. I'm going to put it on the announcement page, send it as an email, so you have the link. But please do watch it before Thursday. And then on Thursday, we are going to cover. And then on Thursday, what we're going to do is we are going to cover data sets and R. But this is a great story, right? So please do watch it. All right, I'm going to let you guys go a little bit early. That's because I'm expecting you to watch this video. And I will see you guys on Thursday, okay?
Thursday then.
Yeah, we'll be in class on Thursday.
Take care, Dr. Mo.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Have a good day.
All right, cheers.